Feel it step back right there, right? So that's misaligned right there. I expect some tenderness to the SCM. So I'm looking for where the clavicle is to the sternum. I'm going to come up underneath the axilla. I want to know if there's any distress pattern, so I can feel the ribs are slightly out of place. I can feel their pectoralis is tight, and there's a little bit of distress in there, right? So then I want to go to the pec tendon. That's tight. Serratus is tight. That's all indicating to me she's got a guarding pattern of the chest, right? Which means her scapula, if you turn around for a second, those scapulas are really winged on her, all right? So I've really found a case of winged scapula that didn't have this whole tightened pattern here, right? It's all guarding pattern, right? Rolling shoulders forward, right? So then the humeral head, I want to know the AC joint. That's this next. So here's the clavicle, and there's the acromion. So if you face the class for a second again, I want to know where the clavicle is relative to the acromion, and that feels like there's a little bit of a step right there. When I press down, that goes away. The humeral head, I want to know where the humeral head is relative to the acromion, is that I can come out here and that's a good space of the humeral head. I want to be able to park my finger there and roll off, right? Now if there's two fingers out there, that means the humerus gone too far forward. You got some people that you can come here and you can't find the humeral head at all because it's too far back. Right, so I want to find where the acromion is. I've already looked at the AC joint and park on the top of the humerus. So I'm going to do the rotator cuff. I'm going to actually pull the arm in slight extension and do this and feel the capsule that it covers the head of the humerus, okay? Then the sits muscles, I want to come in here. I'm looking for tenderness and rigidity and tightness of the sits muscles, and we have some of that, right? So that again shows me we have all of this distress pattern in through here. The forearm muscles and the triceps are both real tight, again telling me we have distress patterns, but with the clavicles out and the ribs are out, then expect tightness in through here. Then I'm going to come down to the ulna radial joint, and I want to know if I put the elbow in extension, does the ulna tuck and disappear? And in this case it does. And then I'm going to move laterally to the radial head, and I can feel the top of the radial head sticking out slightly from underneath the capitulum, right? Then I'm going to check the forearm muscles and find that they're all rigid and tight in through here, looking for trigger points and rigidity. And then I come down and do an inspection of the wrist, and I expect to have a little bit of, right, crepitus in there, which I do, and then I want to check the range of motion, and we've got a little bit of restriction in lateral flexion, but not too bad, right? I expect more on the other side, the elbows. And cervical range of motion, let's see how far you can move your neck from right to left.
Like this one?
Yep. Go both sides again. All right, so can you see that she's going a little further to the right than she is to the left? Yeah, she's cheating. Okay, drop the shoulder. Okay, now go from right to left. Do that again. You see a change in the range of motion? Do you feel the change in the range of motion as I'm holding your ribs? Okay? And see, I think that's a really important examination procedure to do in the exam room. Then I'm going to check the occiput and where the C1 is, and in her case I've got a lot of occiput sticking out here before I find the C2. It's a whole lot of occiput sticking out there. So I don't like the way that feels, so it feels like the whole occiput's gone this way relative to her cervical spine.
Where did you have your fingers? You have your on occipital condyles? Is that where you have it on?
Yeah.
The nuchal ridge.
The nuchal ridge.
The nuchal ridge. But, you know, I should be able to feel C2 out here, and now I'm not feeling C2. So C2 is tucked way in underneath the occiput. There's a whole lot of, turn sideways for the class.
You want me to pull my hair?
That's a whole lot of occiput before you hit the spine, in my opinion. So that means her whole occiput's gone that way, right? I want to know where C1 is relative to C2. If C2 is way rotated here to the right side, okay? You can see spinous is way off to the right side. And then the TMJ, we're going to do an inspection of where the mandible is relative to the mastoid process, and that's a really small space right there. That's a little bit bigger right there, so you can feel there's a misalignment of the mandible relative to the occiput. And P to A, worse on the right side, and then I'm going to come in here, and I've got a little groove right here because the whole mandible's gone that way. So her mandible is posterior and lateral on the right side. I'm done.
So we have to go through all that.
How long did that take?
4 minutes and 33 seconds.
Now, I'm going to say what you guys are going to think of me when you do an exam that quick because you got 4 patients under care and 2 are in the waiting room, and you got someone just walked in